This is Democracy Watch. Marc, we've got a huge update here. So last week, you and I spoke about two right-wing activists who were contesting the eligibility of other voters in the state of Georgia. Your firm got involved, and something pretty big happened after that. What was it?
Yeah, so this lawsuit was filed by two Republican right-wing voters who wanted to challenge other people's right to be registered to vote. They filed it on August 28th. We moved to intervene on September 11th. We filed our motion to dismiss on September 12th, and on September 16th, the other side folded and they voluntarily dismissed their lawsuit.
What does it say about these lawsuits that when legitimate attorneys show up, they just run away?
Well, I mean, it shows exactly what I think you're suggesting, which is that, the other side is using litigation as a weapon in this election cycle. In 2020, if you went from January 1st to today, there were 13 anti-voting lawsuits filed, lawsuits filed by the Republican Party and its allies, 13 in 2020. This year, if you, again, go January 1st to today, there have been over 80 lawsuits filed by Republicans and their allies. That's not because there's more meritorious litigation. Remember, they weren't winning cases in 2020 very much either. It's not because there's more meritorious litigation. It is rather because they have come to understand that they can file lawsuits as a tool to, in some instances, win because, the state is not fighting very hard or is not up to the task or just wants to settle, or they can use them as messaging tools to inspire more bad actions and more election denialism from others. So it is very, very important that we not let this take hold. That people, if they are going to file a lawsuit and it is a frivolous lawsuit or it is a lawsuit that is challenging the rights of voters to vote, they are going to be met with overwhelming, legal force coming back at them, and that we are going to expect the courts to hold them accountable.
Well, does this offer an opening then wherein just the mere presence of your team might have a deterrent effect?
So, look, I think that there has been commentary before on the right, and I hate to, I hate to take praise from the likes of Steve Bannon and on the right, but there has been commentary on the right exactly that the involvement of me and my firm in litigation does have something of a deterrent effect, both when we are intervening to defend cases, but also when we file lawsuits. There has been a lot of commentary about the state's willingness to settle with us when we file lawsuits. And, sometimes this develops into some crazy right-wing theories that we're in cahoots with the states, and, which would be news to the right, to the Republican officials who, think better of fighting because they know they're going to lose. And in the end, not only will they lose, they'll have to explain to the taxpayers why it costs them money.
I think it's also worth noting that you were offered a small sum of money if Republicans could recruit you onto their side. How much money did they suggest that they should give you? Was that $500 million?
Yeah, $500 million.
Marc Elias. Why don't you guys put together $500 million and go hire him and get him out of your way?
We're quite glad that you didn't opt for the money in that sense. But I do want to note that while we're talking about this, while we're talking about the prospect of your team coming in and basically scaring them away and giving us one fewer frivolous lawsuit to contend with, the best way for folks watching right now, a small step that we can all take to support the work that Marc and his team do, is to sign up for Democracy Docket. It's the news outlet that he founded to focus on everything voting in elections. It's also an amazing resource that I use on a daily basis. So you kind of get a twofer there. You get good news and also a way to support Marc and his team. Marc, are there still other right-wing vigilantes who are seeking to remove random Georgians from the voter rolls? That's what this case was predicated on.
Yeah, and not just in Georgia. I mean, we've been tracking this, and, I can tell you exclusively right now that in 9 states, there have been efforts by Republican vigilantes to challenge mass voters. So this is not, one-off challenges. This is a challenge to a series of voters, people they do not know, who they've never met, in 9 states. That is totaling a conservative estimate that my team has put together is 200,000 people, and it is only the middle of September, right? We haven't even gotten to October, which is like when most of the mass challenges come in. And it is a range of states. It is states like Georgia for sure, which is probably the largest number, but it is states like Texas. There's a guy who recently challenged 600 voters in Iowa, and he said, when asked about it, he said, "I've never done it before, but I'm working with the Republican National Committee."
Yeah.
Now that's telling right there, Now whether he's actually working with the RNC or he thinks he is, who knows? But it tells you that the other side, this is a tactic that they have in mind. That mass challenges is one of the tactics we're going to see more and more of.
Look, I asked this question kind of tongue in cheek, but why don't Democrats do the same thing? Not to kick voters off the rolls at its core. That shouldn't be the result of this, but just to show that Democrats can fight fire with fire and show the danger of allowing this kind of rule, this kind of law to persist.
Look, I'm not going to repeat, Michelle Obama's when they go low, we go high. I didn't actually agree with it. I didn't agree with it when she said it. And I think that we need to be willing to, fight hard, against whatever tactic they use. I will say that the problem is, though, that there is no way that the other side won't be more abusive and frivolous. And so a race to the bottom actually, I think, wouldn't be effective, right? Because they would be fine challenging every voter in the country, with the exception of Donald Trump and J.D. Vance, and winning the election 2-0. Right? Like there's no shame on the other side. There's no point at which they'd be like, you know what, this has gone too far.
You've shown
right?
us. You've shown us the light.
Yeah. So I just don't think that would be an effective technique.
No, it's the right answer, and it's look, from my perspective, it's hard not to think of, okay, what are the different strategies that we can take to try and show that this kind of thing is detrimental to democracy. But when you're dealing with another side that has no scruples, then it doesn't really matter, and you're never gonna be able to pass that lesson along to them, because they're never going to because they don't care about the core concept of democracy unto itself.
Correct.
Marc, let's finish off with this. What's the state of the rule in Georgia right now that allows election officials to refuse to certify election results?
Yeah. So remember, the state elections board in Georgia has 5 members, 3 of whom are MAGA supporters. Okay, these are people who Donald Trump called out by name at a political rally as saying that they were pit bulls.
Georgia State Election Board is in a very positive way. This is a very positive thing, Marjorie. They're on fire. They're doing a great job. 3 members: Janice Johnson, Rick Jeffries, and Janelle King. 3 people are all pit bulls fighting for honesty, transparency, and victory. They're fighting.
So that's them, right? And you can see one of them it appears to have been in the room being cheered on. And they have enacted or have promulgated a series of rules that are aimed at providing more discretion for county officials to exercise before they certify election results. So it is kind of like giving the scoreboard operator, discretion to decide what numbers to put up on the scoreboard, right? It doesn't make any sense. Those rules are now being challenged by the Democratic National Committee in a lawsuit that I think they're going to win. But look, they're not deterred, right? The right wing wants there to be this discretion in the certification process because they want to not certify election results, or at least not certify accurate election results. So this is a threat, not just in Georgia because of these election deniers and these rules, but it is something we have to be prepared for throughout the country, and we will be.
Okay, well, we will, of course, stay on top of what's happening in Georgia and across the country. Again, for those watching right now, a small step that we can all take to support the invaluable work that Marc and his team are doing in the courts, which is ground zero for all of these attacks on democracy. Please, again, sign up for Democracy Docket. I'll put the link right here on the screen and also in the post description of this video. I'm Brian Tyler Cohen.
I'm Marc Elias.
This is Democracy Watch.